Good day, everyone. I am Marjorie Antara, and today we will look back the various countries that contributed to the development of physical education in the history. So, are you all ready to our adventure and learn new things? So, what are you waiting for? Hop on and enjoy the trip.
Good day, everyone. I am Rian Hirai, and we have finally arrived at our first destinations, the primitive society. Primitive man moves according to their satisfaction, needs, and necessity. They just live by the means of hunting such wild animals in the forest, or by fishing along the rivers, stream, and sometimes they engage in welfare murder to ensure their protection from adverse elements or hostile environment. Physical activities were not organized by them because their motives about these are for searching foods and protect themselves from their enemies. Their gregarious nature was innate and drives only by meeting and propagations that gives them desires to dance and play with not being organized. So that primitive people developed their physical activities by hunting and gathering food for survival.
Hi everyone, I am Marian Jinhiri Pinka, and this moment we will travel to our next destination, which is the ancient Oriental countries. Ancient China. In ancient China, bodily conditioning played an important role in Chinese society than later times. Noong unang panahon in China, physical education is the increasing chances of group survival. It encouraged youths to develop strength, endurance, and skills needed to withstand the outdoor life in order to obtain the necessities of life. So in ancient China, there is a method of physical education. Little is know how they taught motor skills that probably learned by following and doing what the example of their elders. Matututo sila kung susunod sila sa mga ginagawa na kanilang guro. And then, keep trying hard sa pag-i-ensayo ng sa ganun maging healthy and physically strong. Chinese people focused more on intellectual excellence. In that time, they have a great teacher named Confucius. Confucius' teaching became a state of philosophy of China during the Han Dynasty. It benefits from a lifetime of learning and moral outlook. As early as 2698 before Common, a form of medical gymnastic was developed in China, the acupuncture. The acupuncture is an insertion of very thin needles through your skin, at strategic points of your body. While at the same time, it has the most common side effect that everyone wants: better sleep, more energy, mental clarity, or peace of mind, better digestion, and then less stress. In these ancient times, there is an exercises that recorded in history, which is known as Kung Fu. This is a Chinese martial arts also called as Wushu and Guanfa. Kung Fu is a form of exercise with a spiritual dimension, stemming from concentration and self-discipline. And now, we will travel the country of India. According to the documented history in an ancient India of sports, goes back 3,000 years. In the beginning, sports involved preparation for war and training as a hunter. The history of Army Institute of Physical Training dates back to 1923. This is the end of the World War I, and at the same time, there are three schools of physical training were established in India. In ancient times, there is Hari Krobak, the father of physical education in India. He was one of the founding members in the Olympic movement at the year 1924. The country of India were the same as China. Meron po silang pagkakapareho. They were focusing more on spiritual activity rather than physical needs. In the earliest time, the common physical education of India is yoga. The yoga is the activity that will help the body rest and at the same time to discipline our mind. Oops, it's time to your next destination. Goodbye.
Hi, I am Maria Shalome Gulam, and today we're about to explore the ancient Near East countries and learn new things. Countries in the ancient Near East referred to the ancient countries of Egypt, Assyria, Babylonia, Syria, Palestine, and Persia. It is in the civilization of these countries which marks the turning point in the history of physical education. The Egyptians believed in living a full life. This meant a life full of physical activity. The Egyptian young boys were instructed in the use of various weapons of war such as the bow and arrow, lance, and shield. They engaged in many sports and gymnastics exercises. In dance, the Egyptian women danced for royal entertainment, and evidence of this can be seen on ancient Egyptian carvings. The main objective of Persia was the building of an empire through military aggression. As early as 529 BC or before Christ, King Cyrus the Great encompassed the area now referred to as Middle East. This was made possible by their belief that a strong Persian army was a healthy and physically fit army. The state trained the 6-year-old in such events as running, slinging, shooting the bow, throwing a javelin, hunting, and marching. A soldier was trained to endure all sorts of hardships, which included travel without food and clothing. There was no training of the intellect. The program of physical activity was directed toward the building of strength, conquest, and aggrandizement. However, the decline of this great empire started when the soldiers, basking in the glory of their exploits, indulged in activities which caused their moral decadence. That's all. I hope you enjoy our trip. Bye!
Hi everyone, I am Jorilyn Koyognovio and today we will explore the physical education during the age of Greece. Physical education in Greece is had a golden rule in ancient Greece. The two cities-state which give physical activities much important were Sparta and Athens. In Sparta, the main objective of physical education was to contribute to a strong and powerful army. In Athens, the individual's life was not controlled and regulated in Sparta. He enjoyed an individual freedom. The objective of physical education was for physical perfection, with emphasis the beauty of physique. Gymnastics was believed to contribute to physical development. Gymnastics and music were considered as the most important subject in curriculum. It was always claimed that gymnastics was for the body and music was for the soul. The main areas of concern were special sport and exercises under the expert instructor called the gymnast. Gymnastic was the chief official and overall in the change of an entire gymnastic program. Physical education in Greece was focused on gymnasts. Here are the philosophy and contribution to the physical education in Greece. Herodotus, he recognized the physical education of medicine, while Galen stated the physical education is part of hygiene and subordinate to medicine, almost same as Herodotus. Hippocrates, he proclaimed the law of use and the part of the body strengthened and weaknesses. Socrates, he emphasized the importance of physical education in attaining health. Plato, he considered gymnastics and music as the two most important subjects in curriculum. Aristotle,
He recognized the close interrelationship of the body and soul. Sinupon, he see the physical education as important in terms of the military. That's all. I hope you have discovered new things in the physical education in ways. Thank you.
Hi, I am Janeline Alano, and now let's hop into our next destination, the ancient Rome. Physical education in ancient Rome. Army life was considered very important to the Roman, and considered health as important only to military life. A Roman soldier had to engage in various physical activities following a rigid schedule of training such as marching, jumping, running, throwing the discus, and javelin. At the age of 17 to 60 years old, he had to be a army or Roman soldier. The Roman was never famous as an athlete, but admired good performance in other and promoted it on a professional basis like chariot racing and gladiators combat where the life of the contestant were at stake. The most famous stadium was the Circus Maximus in Rome. It is a huge arena that seated 200,000 spectators. The chariot races were the main event here. The gladiators' combat were held in the Colosseum, an arena 150 feet high, seating 50,000 people. Will become the objectives of most citizens, and vulgar display become the essence of wealth, luxury, corruptions, extravagance, and vice became commonplace in the various phases of Roman living. After the conquest of Greece, Greek gymnastics were introduced to the Romans, but they never will like receive. They did not believe in developing the body beautiful. They preferred to be spectators rather than participants. The Roman dislike of Greeks' physical education was voiced in numerous ways. The enormous amount of money as reward and prizes in game competition pointed to influence of wealth and materialism of the Romans. Historians note that the most outstanding cause of the fall of the great Roman Empire was due to moral decay and physical deterioration. The fall of the Roman Empire in the West around AD 476 resulted in the period of history which is frequently referred to as Dark Ages. In this period, however, was anything but dark in respect of the physical rejuvenation brought about by the overrunning of the Roman Empire by the Teutonic barbarians. Parallel with the decline and the fall of Rome was the rise of Christianity and the Church, with an influence more powerful than all Roman legion. Flavius Theodosius abolished the Olympic Games in AD 394 as being pagan. It's time to your next destination. Bye!
Welcome to the Dark Ages. I am Abigail Barnes, and today we will explore physical education in the Dark Ages. Let's get started. Ages on the history were the period following the fall of the Roman Empire in the Anno Domini 476. It's belong a period of European history called Middle Ages or medieval period from about 500 Anno Domini to 1500 Anno Domini, a time during civilization undergoes a decline. Why is it called Dark Ages? Because it brings images of war, destruction, and death. A historical periodization used originally for the Middle Ages, which emphasizes the cultural and economic deterioration that supposedly occurred in the Western Europe following the decline of the Roman Empire. The labels employ traditional like light versus darkness imaginary to contrast the darkness of the period with earlier and later periods of light. Teutonic barbarian overload the lands that experience glory and grandeur. Peasants work the land and produce the goods that the lord and his manor needed. They were heavily tasked and were required. The Teutonic barbarians who live a life characterized by much physical activity were strong and healthy and conquered the Romans who were physically and morally deteriorated due to their way of life. Teutonic barbarians were a Germanic people from Denmark together with another German people. They attacked the Roman Empire in Australia and northern Italy in the late 2nd century BC. Next, there are two major movements grow out which swept all over Europe, asceticism and scholasticism. Asceticism is a lifestyle characterized by abstinence from worldly pleasures, often pursuing spiritual goals, mainly religious traditions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and some Christian groups include practices that involve restraint with respect to actions of body, speech, and mind. The founders and earliest practitioners of this religious live extremely lifestyle, which dominated teaching by the academics, scholastics, or schoolmen of medieval universities in Europe from about 1100 to 1700, and a program of employing that method in articulating the defending dogma and the increasingly pluralistic context originated as an outgrowth and a departure from Christian monastic school Christianity, the anointed one of the monistic religion based on the life and oral teachings of Jesus and present in the New Testament Christianity in the world's largest region with approximately 2.2 billion, known as Christian. Most Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God, fully divine and fully human, and the Savior of humanity whose coming was purposed in the Old Testament. Consequently, Christians refers to Jesus or the Messiah Theodosius, Flavius, the Theodosius Augustus, also known as Theodosius the Great, was Roman emperor from 379 to 395. Theodosius was the emperor who ruled over both the eastern and the western halves of the Roman Empire. His social transformation was a pivotal, if under-recognized milestone in European history. It parted Roman religious tolerance and political strength and may be seen in retrospectus inauguration of feudal society. Paganism began a broad group, indigenous and historical religious traditions, primarily those of cultures known to the classical world in a wider sense. Paganism has also been understood to include any non-Abrahamic fault or ethnic religion. Modern ethnologists often avoid referring to non-classical and non-European tradition and historical faith as began in favor earliest ambiguous labels such as polytheistic, shamanistic, animistic, contemporary, or modern paganism, also known as neo-paganism, is a group of new religious movements influenced by or claiming to derive from the various historical pagan beliefs of pre-modern Europe. Last is scholasticism, had the belief that the most essential items in one's education are facts that the key of successful life is development of the mental or intellectual power. This belief, which was held by the scholars as the time passed down from generation to generation, so that scholasticism, as a movement, presented a challenge to physical education and in fact of the emphasis on physical activities was the institutions associated with the early Christianity with not only physical education to be one of the important subjects in their curriculum. That's all, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip. I hope you grasp.
Next to tackle is all about physical education during the age of feudalism. When we say feudalism, it's a system of land and work that is based on allegiance and service to the nobleman or lord who owns everything. But is there physical education during this time? Yes, there is. Physical education during the age of feudalism was social and military in nature, and its purpose was to strengthen and harden the body to be rigorous in whatever task they have to do. That's why physical activities during this time played a major part in the training of knighthood and for self preservation during this period. Noblemen's sons had two career options. Clergy, they pursued education that is religious and academic in nature. On the other hand, to become a knight. They pursued education that is physical, social, and military in nature. If a boy chooses to take a path and becoming a knight, the following are what he will undergo first. At the age of 7, he will be sent to nobleman's castle for training and preparation for knighthood. He will be learning about court etiquette, waiting on tables, running errands, and helping with household tasks. Second, at the age of 14, he will be squired and be required to engage in viable sports and exercises. Just like hunting, scaling walls, shooting with bow and arrow, running, climbing, swordsmanship, and horsemanship. Lastly, at the age of 21, if he proves his fitness, he will become a knight and one of the special events in which all knights engage that will test their fitness in Josh would serve as support for amusement and training for battle. In this exhibition, Knight will be having the opportunity to display personal bravery, skill, prowess, strength, and courage. So, as a conclusion, the most important for feudalism is the physical education was playing a major part in the training knighthood.
Physical education during the Renaissance period. The Renaissance period, which came after the Dark Ages, lasted until the beginning of modern times. This was called the revival of learning, which also brought about the dignity of man and the renewed spirit of nationalism. This period also had its impact on physical education. The theory that the body and the soul were inseparable and invisible became popular. It was the belief that good physical education helped promoted learning, and that rest and recreation were needed by the body after study and work. The Renaissance period helped to interpret the worth of physical education to the public. This was with the belief that it was necessary for health, as a means of developing the body, as a preparation for warfare, and a means of providing recreation for the wealthier classes of people. It, however, failed to recognize the important contribution of physical education to the aesthetic, social, and moral life in general.
Hi everyone, I am Marjorie Ayadora and welcome to the Physical Education in the Modern Europe, wherein the development of their physical education is reflected in the contribution of various contributors from different European countries. Physical education in the Europe involves the countries of Germany, Sweden, Denmark, and Great Britain. During the late 1700s and 1800s, early modern Europe experienced the rising of tide of nationalism. In Germany, physical education focused on the development of strong citizens through programs in the school and community. Contributors in the physical education in Germany are Johann Bernhard Beistow, Johann Christoph Friedrich Gotz Mutz, Friedrich Ludwig Jahn, and Adolf Spies. Johann Bernhard Beistow. He is the first contributor in Germany, wherein he established a school called Philanthropenum, the first school in modern Europe where physical education is part of the school curriculum. Johann Christoph Friedrich Gotz Mutz, who is often referred to as one of the founders of modern physical education in Germany. He wrote two books, Gymnastic for the Young and Games, which gives favor to the physical education institutions. Friedrich Ludwig Jahn. His name is associated with the Turnverein, an association of gymnasts which he inaugurated to help German youth into strong and hardy citizens. Adolf Spies, the founder of physical gymnastics in Germany and the one who helped to make physical education a part of a school life. Physical education in Sweden. Per Henrik Ling. His name is a symbolic of the rise of physical education in Sweden. He established the Royal Central Institute of Gymnastics to prepare teachers in three categories of gymnastics: educational, military, or medical. And he also believed the importance of physical education in military. He also developed exercises apparatus like stall bars, vaulting boxes, and oblique ropes. Lars Gabriel Branting. He spent his time in medical gymnastics. His teachings were based on the premise that physical activity causes changes in the muscular, nervous, and circulatory system. Gustav Niblaeus. He specialized in military gymnastics. His innovation was the inclusion of women in the school. And lastly is Hjalmar Friedrich Ling, responsible for making physical education as a school subject, wherein he realized that sports offered an enjoyable experience for students and had a place in a school program. Physical education in Denmark. Some of the contributors are Franz Nachtigal and Niels Bock. Franz Nachtigal, he introduced the physical education into the school of Denmark. He is the first director of a training school for teachers of gymnastics in the Army Director of Gymnastics for all Denmark. Next is Niels Bock. He introduced the primitive gymnastics and attempted to build the perfect physique through a series of exercises that were performed without cessation of movement. Physical education in Great Britain. Great Britain emphasized programs of organized games and sports. One of the contributors is Archibald MacLaren. He devised a system of physical education for the British Army. His works or books pointed out that the objective of physical education should consider health as more important than strength. Physical education in America. The colonial period in America was not conducive to organized physical education programs. There was a little emphasis given to any form of physical activity because it was thought of as waste of time. But during the national period in the United States, history began to recognize physical education as important to American society. German gymnastics were introduced and Turnverein associations were organized. During the 1800s, the physical education in America was influenced by three nations, the Germany, England, and Sweden. Notable also at this period were the building of gymnasiums and the formation of gymnastics and athletics clubs. Turnverein societies were established. Swedish gymnastics was recognized for inherent medical values. Tennis was introduced in 1874. Golf came to America in the late 1880s. Basketball was invented by James Naismith, and Dr. Dudley Allen Sargent was known for his work in teacher preparation, remedial equipment, exercise devices, college organization and administration, anthropometric measurements, experimentation as basis for activity, and scientific research. Contributors in the development of physical education in the early 20th century were the following. Thomas Tennyson Wood. He introduced natural gymnastics, which gives more emphasis on game and game skills. Clark Hetherington, emphasis on children's play activities. Jesse Bancroft, influenced the development of physical education as responsibility of homeroom teachers in elementary schools. Jacob Riis, symbolic of the playground movement in Europe. Edward Hitchcock, the first who created an American PE program that emphasized on a scientific base and consistent measurement of progress. It was also in 1823 when the Round Hill School was established, a private school in Northampton, Massachusetts. So that's all, guys. I hope you have learned a lot, and bye!
Have you ever wondered what it was like before the Spaniards came to the Philippines? What is like living in their generation? How did they sustain life? Physical education in the Philippines dated back to primitive society when physical activity was very important for survival, making it necessary for the adult to teach physical skills to the young. With the fast changing times, it is quite interesting to note the strides made by physical education and how it has affected the lives of the people. Did you know? Another term for pre-Spanish is pre-colonial, pre-Hispanic, pre-Magellanic. During the pre-Magellanic times, the education was informal, unstructured, devoid of method.
Physical education in the Philippines dated back to primitive society, when physical activity was very important for survival, making it necessary for the adult to teach physical skills to the young. With the fast changing times, it is quite interesting to note the strides made by physical education and how it has affected the life of the people. The Aborigines of the Philippines, the Negritos and Aitas, the first people who migrated here in the Philippines, had a way of life the same way to any other peoples living in the primitive society. The only motivation for physical activities were for survival and connection with their quest for food and protection against the hostile environment where they must live, run, walk, jump, and climb trees. A chieftain is chosen by his or her physical prowess, therefore, the chieftain must be physically fit for fighting, hunting, and having special skill in other areas of the survival. Indonesians and Malays migrated to the Philippines. Their physical activities consist of planting and cultivating the mountains until they produce one of the wonders of the world once of the Banawe rice terraces. Dancing was a form of religious activity as to please their gods, to cure the sick, to make the rain came during drought, after a bountiful harvest, victory in a tribal war which they term as Kanaw, religious dance for Igorots.
So this time, we will travel in the Spanish regime. So there is Fray Gaspar de San Agustin who published a history of Augustinian missions in the Philippines, as sleepy, sluggish, inclined to work. And that time, Jose P. Rizal agreed with that statement. Pinatunayan niya sa pamamagitan ng kanyang isinulat entitled The Indolence of Filipinos. So therefore, it is stated that regarding physical activities, we Filipinos are not responsible with it except the enforced labor. So in Filipinos, there is a pastime activities such as bathing and swimming, which not requires more energy. And then at the same time, it doesn't seem so hard to do. They know nothing that Filipinos are really love doing physical activities, such as dancing, ceremonial dances during religious events, games such as pabitin, duplo, pangoy and anilu. In 1863, a royal decree established a normal school for men, and then it allowed to train teachers for for both elementary and then high school. In 1892, um, another royal decree established a superior normal school but for women.
The American period during the development of physical education in the Philippines. History of physical education teaches us about changes or the development as well as the stability in the past, and this help us understand the present and give us knowledge about the historic event of physical education and sports that we have now in our country. Just as soon as the American soldiers landed in the Philippines after the historic event of the signing of the Treaty of Paris on December 10, 1898. It is very interesting and worthwhile to note that this period marked the flowering stage of physical education and sports in this country. The following dates marks the significant events of the historic development of physical education and sports in the Philippines. In 1901, physical exercise was one of the subjects introduced in the public schools. In 1905, baseball and track and field were introduced and taught to the young boys in school. In 1909, the athletic programs for the schools was inaugurated and much emphasis was given to the playing of Western sports and the coaching of tennis. 1910, basketball was first introduced as a game for girls in the Carnival meet held in Manila, but was later discontinued in 1914 because it was found very strenuous for the girls. In 1911, the athletic handbook was published. In 1914, the Teachers' Vocation Assembly in Manila gave special training to Filipino teachers so they could conduct the various physical education activities included in the physical education program. In 1919, a syllabus entitled Physical Education, a manual for teachers, was published. In 1920, physical education was made a required subject in the curriculum of all public schools. In 1928, a summer school for coaching was held with the aim of helping the public school teachers in charge of athletics to improve their coaching methods. In Sport and American Occupation of the Philippines, Bats, Balls, and Bayonets, Lexington Books 2016, James explored the history of sports during the U.S. occupation of the Philippines. Gerald James is a professor and a former chairperson of the Health and Physical Education Department. He is the past president of the North American Society for Sports History and the vice president of the International Society for the History of Physical Education and Sports. Based on extensive primary and secondary source research, James uses hegemony theory to investigate how and why American colonizers imported ideas about sports to the Philippines, and in what circumstances Filipinos adopted or rejected these sporting practices. Filipino sportsmen and women played some American sports, first baseball and later basketball, but on their own terms. For many Filipinos, athletes sports became a way to assert Filipino nationalism. When they played basketball against U.S. soldiers, they overcame American height advantages by developing a fast-paced style, and they likened their victories to the rapid strikes of Filipino guerrillas against the occupying forces. So, James' works are resonance beyond the development of the physical education in the Philippines. So, that's all guys. I hope you have learned a lot. Till next time, bye!
I am here again to discuss the translation year to the present. The translation year to the present. November 15, 1935 marked the beginning of the translation period for the Philippines to prepare for a truly self-government in the Commonwealth period. But this was interrupted by the Japanese occupation during World War II. In 1937, physical education was made a curricular subject in the secondary school curriculum. The grading system included as basis to mark were the following, which is attendance, proficiency in skills, attitude, daily performance, report, and sportsmanship. In 1938, a summer school of PE was opened by the Bureau of
Mr.
Education
Serafin.
under the direction of Mr. Aquino at Rizal Stadium. In 1941, the attack of Pearl Harbor started the World War II, which necessitated the closing of school. In June 1942, the Japanese military administration authorized the opening of the public elementary school to carry out their scheme of co-prosperity spur. In the school, the radio tidus or calisthenic on the air was
At
made
Luneta.
obligatory. The demonstration was held which was participated by thousands of Filipino children. In 1947, the training of teachers in vacation school was revived. Under the joint of sponsorship of the Department of Education and the Philippines Amateur Athletics Federation. In August of the same year, the school got its name National College of Physical Education. It offered 40 units course of certificate in PE, or physical education.
Stellar Development of Physical Education, the revised elementary program of 1970, issued by the Secretary of Education and Culture. In 1973, the physical fitness testing programs was launched and selected pilot divisions. In 1973, the revised secondary education program introduced a new course, which is Youth Development Training and Citizens Army Training. The history of physical education and sports development of our country was held in World Congress by the International Council on Health. Physical Education and Creation at the Philippines International Convention